Hello everybody, Gary Sill with Sill Music Supply here in Mount Zion, Illinois. I wanted to talk a little bit about what it takes for you to start playing pedal steel. It's probably the hardest question to answer because everybody's at a different level when they start. But if somebody is at a basic level and they love steel guitar and they want to play it, what must they learn? They must learn this is a musical instrument. You can't skip the idea that you don't have to learn music. You have to learn some music on every musical instrument, especially one as varied as this. So what do you need to know? Well, the first thing I would say, let's learn the open tuning on the E ninth, if that's what you're starting to learn. Know what those notes are, write them down. Know what's on the 8th string, the 6th string, the 5th string. Memorize those so that you know what each note is tuned to. It would be no different than if you were learning piano. I remember learning piano at a young age, and what's the first thing you have to learn? You have to know where the middle C is on a piano. Well, that's the same thing. You have to have something to start with. So you have to say, this top neck on an E9, it's basically tuned to an E tuning with some extra notes strung in there. So that when you hit the right strings, you play an E chord with no bar, no pedals. You just find the strings that you want to play that makes sense, and that's an E chord. Well, you have to know what an E chord consists of. So if you're going to learn pedal steel, we should know by heart every note that it's tuned to. So we can then know what an E chord is consisting of, because it's going to be an E tuning with some extra notes, remember. So what's an E chord? It's E, G sharp, and B. That's what it is, those three notes. It hadn't changed since the beginning of time. So when you combine those three notes together, E, G sharp, and B, you make something that sounds really good. It's a major chord, an E major chord. So we could start with that. Once we've got that, it's no different than learning the beginning notes as a piano student would. Or if you're playing guitar, what's the guitar tuned to? So we got to start there no matter what. You can't just start learning grips alone, and that's essential, but when you play those grips, you should know what note you're playing, each of those three notes that you're combining if you're playing a chord. That's where we start. Without that, you have no foundation. So once we have the foundation of knowing where I can find E, G sharp, and B on the E ninth neck, where those strings are, and what note I'm playing, that's where we start. And then when we hit those three strings, they magically make an E chord, provided it's in tune. So you have to learn how to tune the steel, and then you have to learn where the E chord is. Guess what happens? If you are in the key of E, and a song is playing, somebody's playing a song, singing to it, and they're playing an E chord, if you know where E, G sharp, and B is, you can play right along and sound pretty good, until they change chords. And then when they're on a different chord in the song, you got to move your bar and find where the A chord is and the B7 chord. So that's kind of the beginning that everybody has to start at. And without that, you're just picking and grinning and don't know what you're doing, kind of thing. But you really should know what you're playing. I'm going to confess that wasn't my focus when I started playing, because I didn't know too much about the steel guitar other than I knew how to play piano a little bit. But this is a different animal. This is a pedal steel. It does a lot of things that don't happen on a piano. So we have to play along and know what and why it was designed the way it is so that you can get beautiful music out of it. I hope this has helped you a little bit to get your focus. And if you want to take lessons, I'd be glad to help you get started in the basics of music. And you gotta know that. You just gotta know what an E chord consists of. A C chord, a D chord, an E chord, a B chord, you name it. That's your basis, and we can find those notes on this pedal steel, and then all at once you sound good. So let's try that approach. If you have any questions, write me and be glad to help you. We're located here in Mount Zion, Illinois, 217-433-7455. Be glad to assist and answer some of your questions if you have them. But get you a pedal steel. It's one of the biggest challenges you'll ever face in life, but it's the most rewarding because it's a beautiful instrument. And once you learn how to play it, you'll love it for the rest of your life, and you'll be a steel player. Thank you so much for just listening to me expound a little bit on how you begin. The first few thoughts that's got through your mind. Tune the thing up right. We have a course on doing that, and we also can teach you where your major chords are on the steel and how to make everything sound beautiful. Thank you very much.